Welcome back to Life on Purpose. Today's episode is about something we all wrestle with, fear. Not the kind that keeps you from jumping out of a plane, but the kind that quietly holds you back from who you're becoming and who you're meant to be. Being fearless doesn't mean that you never feel fear. It means you stop letting fear make your decisions. We're going to talk about how to live on purpose even when fear is loud, and how to move forward anyway with faith, with love, with power. I want to ask you, what would you do differently if fear wasn't part of the equation? Really think about that. What would you do differently if fear wasn't part of the equation? What is fear really, anyways? Most fear isn't danger, it's discomfort. It's uncertainty, vulnerability, it's hesitation, it's doubt, or embarrassment, or the perception of. Fear is just the nervous system trying to keep us safe from the unknown. It tries to convince you that doing the thing will lead to suffering. So it makes the thing feel dangerous, even when it isn't. But here's the truth, your dream life lives in the unknown. So fear will always show up at the edge of your next expansion. Being fearless means knowing that and moving forward anyway. We all face fear. Fear of failure, fear of being seen, fear of success and what it will ask of us, fear of letting people down, fear of leaving the familiar. Every version of fear has one job: to keep you the same, to keep you in the known. Living on purpose means being willing to grow anyway, willing to be afraid, willing to be uncomfortable, willing to be embarrassed, and do it anyway. That's life on purpose. Some real life examples of fearless living, real life, would be choosing to launch a business even when you're not ready. This one is close to my heart. Choosing to launch that business anyways, even though you have no idea what you're doing, or you have no money to do it with. You just, everything about it is unknown, and you do it anyway. Speaking your truth, even when your voice shakes. It took me a long time to face that fear, really, I think, I actually remember the first time I had to really speak my truth and confront my people pleasing, keep the peace kind of, personality that I had at the time, survival mechanisms. My voice really did shake. It really did. And then from that moment on, I never felt that fear again. It's amazing how once now it's familiar to speak your truth, then there's no mechanisms built into your brain and body that try and prevent you from doing it. So it becomes easier. Or another example of real life fearless living would be walking away from what's safe in order to honor what's true. Again, we have a lot of heart in that one. Or saying yes to the next step before the whole staircase appears. I like that one. That applies to everything and anything. Fear says, stay small. Stay here. We are safe here because we know what to expect here, right? But then faith or fearlessness says, expand, grow, see what's possible. You get to choose what you listen to. That's life on purpose. Fear says this, faith says that. You decide which one you will listen to, which one you will choose on purpose. Every time you get close to a breakthrough, fear gets louder. So I want you to think that's not a red flag. That's a clue that you're close. Your dream is on the other side of your resistance. So look for the resistance and lean into it. I can't say that enough. Look for where you're uncomfortable. Lean into that. As soon as you start to feel uncomfortable, that's your sign. You're getting closer to something new. And it's not the new thing that is actually making you feel uncomfortable. It's the fact that it's new that's making you feel uncomfortable. It's not necessarily dangerous. It's just unfamiliar. Just remind yourself that. Conquer fear. And if you want something new anyways, right? So remember this. If you want something new, you have to do something new. You have to tell yourself a new story. You have to choose a new perspective. It sounds so obvious, but how many times have you felt frustrated with your life while doing the same things day after day? Right? It sounds obvious, but how many times have you felt frustrated and you've never changed anything, but you expect everything to change? It takes new actions to create new results. And that newness is exactly what fear is designed to stop you from doing and from having. The key isn't waiting for the fear to go away. The key is acting while it's still there. Like taking action. Act while you're afraid. No matter how uncomfortable this gets, I'm not stopping. That's your mantra. I'm doing the damn thing, no matter what. Mantra. There's a phrase that we live by, Matt and I it's, I choose courage over comfort. So it's like, yeah, this is totally uncomfortable. I have no idea what I'm doing. I feel foolish. And sometimes the hardest part is knowing that a year from now, you will be very good at whatever it is you're doing. And there will be evidence of you not being good at whatever it is you're doing as you're learning how to get good at it. Right? You know what I mean by that? It's like you have to start where you are, and maybe you're not very good at whatever it is yet. And you know that you're going to get good at it, and there's going to be this whole learning curve. And maybe that learning curve is embarrassing. But oh well, it's like, I guess I'm just gonna have to do it anyways. I choose courage over comfort. I have to go through this part in order to get to that part. So I'm just gonna go through this part. I'm not gonna care. I can't care. All right? So I choose courage over comfort. Matt said that for years. And it's just as true today as it was 16 years ago when we opened our first studio. On February, we decided to open the studio. Let me think. It was February of 2008, February 21st, 2008. There was a full moon lunar eclipse, and I had never seen one before. Matt and I sat outside on the patio of a little neighborhood wine bar. We shared a bottle of red wine under the stars. It was crisp outside, the kind of night where the air feels electric with possibility. And overhead, the moon just glowed deep, almost red colored in the sky. We ordered every appetizer that sounded even remotely good and laughed over our clinking glasses and let ourselves just dream bigger than we ever had before. Which, that is something that Matt and I have always done from day one, is we like to sit around and dream and conspire about our future and what we want and who we want to be. And it's one of my favorite things about our relationship. And at the time, February of 2008, we had two little kids, a 3-year-old and an almost 1-year-old. And Matt was working in architecture and I was a stay-at-home mom volunteering part-time doing oncology body work. Our days were full, our life was good, but deep inside we knew we wanted something more, something ours, something we could build together as a family. A life where wellness and creativity and meaning weren't just things we squeezed in. They were the foundation of our whole life. That's like what we got to eat and drink and breathe and, and absorb, just wellness, creativity, and meaning. Matt who has always been a creative genius. And I'm not just saying that because he's my husband. He's legit a creative genius with a wild, visionary mind, saw possibilities. Always, he sees possibilities where others only see problems. And me, I had the science and soul of wellness in my bones. I was just born that way. Helping people heal and grow and thrive wasn't just my work, it was my calling. That night, under the magic of the eclipse, we birthed our wild idea. We would open a studio, a true sanctuary for well-being, built around the pillars of wellness, the 4 M's, movement, mindset, meditation, and menu. They are the foundation of a vibrant, joyful life. We chose the name Sutra because in Sanskrit, Sutra means the rope or thread that binds. And we wanted to weave together every essential part of true wellness, mind, body, and spirit, into one sacred space. And to our credit, at the time, nothing like that existed in our area, in our neck of the woods. There wasn't anything like that. So we were thrilled to have bumped into this wild idea. But it wasn't just a business idea. It was bigger than that. That night, sitting under the moon, we had a realization. There are only 2 real emotions that drive everything: love and fear. And that moment, that night, we made a vow to each other. We would only make decisions from love and never from fear. And that commitment was tested almost immediately. Within weeks of us making that vow and birthing that dream, the housing market completely crashed. And not just the housing market, the entire global economy began collapsing into what would become the Great Recession. Banks failed, jobs disappeared, certainty evaporated overnight. And around the same time, we did something that felt insane to almost everyone around us. We sold both of our SUVs and bought a tiny little hybrid car. Long before we knew, we were pregnant with our third. When we found out, we had a moment of panic. How are we going to fit 3 car seats in the back of this tiny car? That's when Matt, creative genius, I'm telling you, that's when Matt had a brilliant idea. He had to measure the back seat, and he went online and literally found some special car seats. I think they were actually like European car seats that would fit in that back seat, just 3 in a row, and just special order them. We became a 1-car family with a dream that was bigger than our circumstances, and all dreams should be. When the banks started collapsing and business loans evaporated along with them, we didn't give up. Matt drained his 401k, we maxed out our credit cards, we got a little help from family, and then we found it. This forgotten, crumbling, historic building on the edge of downtown, it was in Midtown. It had been abandoned for years. I mean, when we first looked at it, I have to tell you, Matt found it, of course, creative visionary, finds this building, and we go and look at it, right? And my first reaction is no, absolutely not. No, no, no. H to the N to the O, no. Right? It had been abandoned for years. The roof leaked. There was no windows. Like, the windows were shattered. The walls were covered in graffiti. Most people saw decay. I say we saw potential. I'm thinking, really, I'm going to have to pin this one on Matt. Matt saw potential, and together we saw a future. So I said no immediately, but Matt could show me what he meant. He could sit down and design it and draw the building and show me his vision. And then I was on board. We saw a future in that building. So Matt rolled up his sleeves and with his own two hands, and I'm not even kidding, with his own two hands, he brought that building back to life. He transformed it into a space that would become a jewel of Phoenix history, a place where people could come home to themselves. Our third baby was born the very day we were supposed to sign the lease. So we signed the papers a week later with a newborn in our arms. and you know what? Even more fire in our hearts. People told us it was impossible. They warned us that we were being reckless, but we kept going. We brought our babies to the studio every day. We set up a little living room in the corner with a tiny TV and toys and a pack and play and a big, huge, cozy couch. And we'd rock them to sleep and tuck them in on that couch. And then we would work all night, like well into the morning hours, building the space room by room, creating classes and designing programs and growing a community from scratch. And we had never done anything like that before. All of it, like all of that, every single thing that I just described to you, we had never done any of that before. It was exhausting. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. Every day we faced fear, and every day we chose love instead. Not because it was easy, not because we didn't feel afraid, but because we had decided from the beginning that fear would never make our decision for us. And here's the truth. We learned fear never really goes away. There was never a time that we owned the studios that we weren't on some level feeling fear. It never fully goes away. It just evolves. And the good news is, so do you. Okay? We started to see fear not as a stop sign, but as a signpost. Fear didn't mean we were failing. It meant we were growing. And that's still true today. Every dream worth living will ask you to feel fear and move forward anyway. Because fear is just success in disguise. Fearless doesn't mean being unafraid. Never forget that. Fearless doesn't mean being unafraid. It means doing it anyway. And when you make decisions from love instead of fear, everything changes. Your energy, your relationships, your results, because love is where your life is, but it's up to you to go live it. Think about that. Love is where your life is, but you have to be willing to go live it, which means you have to be willing to choose courage over comfort, to face fear and do it anyway. And every time you act in alignment instead of avoidance, you become the version of you already living the life you want. Just think about that. The version of you who's living your dream life. You've got the health you want. You've got the wealth you want, the home, the career, the relationships. You waved a magic wand and every aspect of your life is a dream come true. Now think about the version of you who's living that life. They are bold. They are confident. They are powerful. They are fearless. Act in alignment with that. And when you feel the pull to act in avoidance with that, choose to move forward anyway. And that's how you become the version of yourself already living the life you want. Okay? I want to ask you, what's one area where fear has been showing up in your life? Maybe you've got some areas of life that are just on point. You're being fearless. You're used to feeling that way. You're used to the resistance towards, the fact that it's new and not familiar. And you're used to it. So it doesn't bother you. It doesn't slow you down. You just keep moving forward. But maybe there's another area of your life where fear is keeping you small. Where is that showing up? Where you're avoiding. You're not saying yes. You're not standing tall. You're not speaking up. Where is that place in your life? And let me ask you this. What would love have you do instead? What would love have you do instead? Maybe journal that and reflect, or just sit with it. And when you receive an answer, know that that answer is coming from your highest self, guiding you towards everything you've ever wanted. Next time, we're diving into one of the most powerful pieces of this puzzle, radical self-love. Because you can't live a life on purpose if you don't love the person living it. We're going to talk about what real self-love looks like, how to stop abandoning yourself, and how to build the kind of inner relationship that changes everything. See you there.